Andreessen Horowitz and Sequoia just put $40 million behind Probook, an AI company that says dispatch should become the center of a new operating system for home services. And this is not a tiny voice agent startup promising to answer your missed calls. Probook is publishing customer stories where large HVAC, plumbing, and electrical companies are reducing dispatcher headcount, automating call assignment, and running hundreds of technicians through one centralized operation. So the real question is not whether Probook can answer the phone. The question is whether Probook is becoming a new control layer for the entire front office, and whether companies like ServiceTitan, Housecall Pro, Jobber, and the standalone AI agent vendors should take that seriously. Let's start with the funding. Probook announced $40 million in total funding on June 23, 2026. That includes a $34 million Series A led by Andreessen Horowitz and a $6 million seed round led by Sequoia, with Sequoia also joining the Series A. For a company focused on dispatch inside HVAC, plumbing, and electrical businesses, that's a very serious bet. Probook's argument is pretty simple. Home service companies spent the last few years buying separate AI tools for phone calls, web leads, outbound follow-up, and customer messaging. But those tools did not share the same operational context, so the office ended up managing more vendors and more exception. Probook says dispatch has to come first because dispatch connects the customer promise, the right technician, the schedule, the expected ticket, and the customer update. In practice, Probook says it handles intake, cleans the booking data, communicates with customers, works open estimates and membership visits, and reshuffles the dispatch board using historical information. Humans manage the exception. The AI handles the repetitive decisions and conversations around the board. The customer's number are what make the story interesting though. Valera, an HVAC, plumbing, and electrical company with more than 220 technicians across 8 Florida locations, says it centralized dispatch and went from 22 dispatchers to 10. Probook says about 90% of call assignment now happens automatically, and that its AI handles around 16,000 inbound calls per month, with a 74% containment rate. Peterman Brothers is another example. It operates across 11 locations with more than 200 technicians. In Probook's customer story, Peterman says roughly 95% of day-to-day dispatch decisions run through Probook. The platform also handled 2,500 non-dispatch inbound calls in 1 month and booked 414 jobs without a human. Those are impressive numbers, but let's be clear on something. They come from Probook's own website and customer marketing. They're not independently audited comparisons. We don't have the full labor baseline, software costs, implementation costs, job mix, seasonality, or every operational change made at the same time. Treat them as evidence that large contractors are using the platform, not guaranteed results for your shop. Here's what I think Probook gets right. Dispatch is not just a map, and it's not just route optimization. For example, the closest technician is not automatically the right technician. The right decision can depend on skill, callback, risk, expected ticket, membership status, promise window, equipment history, parts, overtime, and what happens to the rest of the board after one emergency is inserted. That makes dispatch a much harder AI problem than answering a call. And Probook is saying that if it owns the context around dispatch, it can also improve intake, outbound, customer updates, and booking quality. For me personally, that is a more interesting strategy than selling one more voice bot that creates another record for a dispatcher to clean up. But is Probook replacing ServiceTitan? Not exactly, at least not from the public material we have. ServiceTitan still has the deep system of record advantage across customers, jobs, price books, invoices, reporting, accounting workflow, and its own growing AI stack. Probook's current story is that it can run the customer experience and dispatch layer around that operation. The competitive risk is that the system employees use for daily decisions can become more important than the database underneath it. The other catch is implementation. Probook talks openly about deploying in person, learning the business, configuring complex rules, and staying involved with the frontline team. That is probably why it can handle larger operators, but it also means this is not necessarily a 5-minute app install for a 3-truck company. This is not publicly listed on the pages that I reviewed, so you need a full implementation and subscription quote before doing ROI math. So who should care about all this? A large multi-location home service operator with a heavy call center and centralized dispatch should absolutely study this. A smaller shop with 5 technicians and 1 experienced dispatcher shouldn't assume that venture funding automatically makes the platform a fit. Complexity, data quality, change management, and human oversight still matter. My verdict is that Probook is one of the most important AI in the trades companies to watch in 2026. Not only because they raised $40 million, but because it's attacking the part of the business where customer experience and technician revenue actually meet. The winner in this story is the idea of AI as an operating layer, not another point tool. If I were evaluating Probook, I would give it 1 week of real historical calls and dispatch decisions. I would ask it to explain why each technician gets each job, what constraints it uses, what it changed, and what a human can override. If the answer is clear and the board gets better without hidden cleanup, then this is pretty much real. If the answer is just a black box revenue promise, keep looking. Be safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.